Welcome to today's webinar, The Search for Social Media Synergy, sponsored by MarketWire and CMOs. We're going to discuss how the synergy between social media and SEO drives B2B inbound leads and social marketing ROI. So as we get started today, I need to go over some housekeeping information and introductions before we begin. Now, our presenters today are amazing. They have many years of marketing experience. They have spoken to thousands of marketers, wrote books, and are thought leaders in the industry. So I really encourage you to pay attention to what they have to say. The first is Sergio Bolaño. He is the Director of Research at Marketing Sherpa, and he is also responsible and the lead author of the 2011 Email Marketing Benchmark Report and the just-released 2011 Social Marketing Benchmark Report, which we'll go into some detail today about. Researches, writes, and frequently speaks about these topics at our Marketing Sherpa Summits and professional training workshops. We're so pleased to have Melinda Van Patter with us. She's an account executive at MarketWire CMOs, and they are a global newswire organization helping clients to get their news in front of the media, online communities, stakeholders, and the public. She previously worked at the Canadian Press, Canada's national news agency, advising public and investor relations professionals on how to best get media pickup. With the new online media environment, Melinda has taken on the role as a social media consultant to her clients and others. So we're glad to have these speakers with us. So today we encourage you to join the conversation on Twitter at #SherpaWebinar. And also remember, we're going to be monitoring the GoToWebinar question box. So if you have any questions about the audio, or if we're going to be recording this, which we are, feel free to put a question in the box and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Keep in mind that we'll have about 10 minutes of Q&A to discuss after the presentation has concluded. Also, I get this question quite a lot, so let me go ahead and answer it now. The slide presentation is going to be recorded today, and it will be sent to you in a follow-up email. So let's begin. Let's briefly take a minute and just review today's agenda. We're going to talk about the synergy of social media and SEO, and we're going to talk about the social marketing architecture that drives these inbound leads. We're going to review some excellent case studies talking about how that inbound strategy pulls those leads and what's really driving that investment in these social media programs. We're also going to discuss how you can calculate some return on investment. And then we're going to identify what to measure, the why and how, and some of those key relationship metrics for tracking. And so a lot of people have asked, what is Marketing Sherpa and how do you come across and how do you get to where you are now? Well, at Marketing Sherpa, our job is really to research, write, and speak about what works in marketing today, with the prime goal of trying to help marketers like yourself continuously improve their performance. Now, to accomplish this, we use an annual research-based publishing training cycle, which is what you see in front of you now. Now, as the graphic shows, this cycle really begins when we publish research on what is working and what isn't for marketers today. Because in all honesty, that's what we really want to know. What isn't working and also what's working with your peers. And we publish those in those benchmark reports that has the data, that has the case studies that you're interested in reviewing. Next, we identify those best practices and we formulate practical methodologies on them for that. So we have our how-to handbooks. We just finished the email handbook and the B2B handbooks that have these new methodologies in them. And then we have special reports that we do as well. And from those, we teach those marketers how to best apply those practices and methodologies. Now, a lot of you are excited about the Optimization Summit that's coming up in the next few days. Also, we have certification training and webinars like you're on today that teach these marketers how to apply those best practices. And really, this cycle is focused on monetizing social media for ROI. Now, one of the most important insights we gain from our study is how far marketers have advanced through the 3 phases of social marketing maturity. So really, what does that mean? Well, this is the process an organization uses to plan, execute, and measure performance of social marketing programs and really determines its phase of maturity. So if you're looking at the screen right now, in the trial phase of an organization, that's really where an organization does not have a process or guidelines for performing social marketing. They're just getting started. Next, you have the transition phase. And this is where an organization, they have an informal process with a few guidelines they're sporadically performing, with about 46% in our study that are in that transition phase. Then lastly, you have the strategic phase. And this is where an organization has a formal process. They have thorough guidelines. They're routinely performing them. And so, as we look at this chart, there's a few things I want to point out. The first is the good news. About 1 in 5 organizations have already reached this strategic phase. Now the bad news. That's nearly twice that are still in the trial phase. So a lot of people are just getting started. They're just scratching the surface. So really what we have to do now is we have to move forward with the strategic process that's really needed to effectively manage the investment and the required resources to monetize the social media and improve ROI. Now, how is this going to be done? Sergio, I'm going to turn the presentation over to you so you can show us how that's possible.
Thank you very much, Justin, and welcome everyone from the East Coast to the West Coast for joining us today. We really appreciate your being here, and we're going to deliver some value in the content we talk about today. And what I'm going to start out with is just kind of explaining the synergy between social media and search engine optimization and why it's so important today to have your social media and search programs not separate but integrated tactics. First, it's good to look at the impact that social has on organic traffic and the conversion rates from that traffic. What this chart is showing us is that conversion rates from organic search listings are much higher if you're using social media, if you're a marketer with social media integrated into your campaigns. As a matter of fact, search marketers who integrate social media achieve a 59% better rate of conversion. And the reason for this is because social content is all about relevance, getting like-minded individuals together talking about the same thing. So content tends to be extremely relevant on social media, or should be extremely relevant on social media. Well, search rankings are driven by relevance. Relevance increases credibility, and credibility drives conversion. So this integration of search and social is going to not only increase the organic traffic and the rankings that you get from the integration, it's also going to increase the conversion rates that you realize. We're a little slow on advancing the slides, but it will catch up, I'm sure. Here we go. Okay, sorry for these delays. Hopefully they will pick up as we go along. Social media and search integration is essential. If you go on to a search engine today, if you look at Google, and the elements, the graphic element to the left of the chart there are basically the searchable features of Google. And so with Google, you're not only searching the web, you're searching things that are related to social media, or you have the ability to search things related to social media like videos on YouTube and blog posts and real-time conversations happening on social media sites, discussion groups, and so forth. All that content is available to search engines, and it's appearing very strongly in the rankings. In fact, as the chart shows, 76% of social marketers agree that many natural search listings today are linked to social media content. So the integration of social media and SEO tactics is absolutely essential. It's no longer an option. It's something you really need to do to make your search and your social programs optimized. We're still having some delay here. I apologize for this delay between slides, but we'll bear with it. So what we know is from our research is that together the use of social media and search accelerates inbound lead generation and conversion. And this synergistic relationship that's occurring between the two tactics, social media and search, it is becoming so popular and so obvious that it has developed its own title, its own moniker, and that is inbound marketing. Search and social integrated together has become really inbound marketing. And what this chart shows is those marketers who are integrating social media and SEO tactics to increase specifically inbound lead generation. And 47%, nearly half of social marketers are using this synergy to improve inbound marketing performance. Oh, that was a quick one. But what the chart showed that doesn't really stand out here is that small slice in the chart. 11% of marketers still don't know what inbound marketing is. Just as an explanation for those who aren't familiar with the term, inbound marketing is a strategy that focuses on being found by customers as opposed to going out and finding customers, which is outbound marketing. Inbound marketing leverages earned media like social media, SEO, and content sharing to attract these customers. And it's as opposed to using social media as a paid media by placing advertising on it, we're talking about social media in terms of earned media for inbound marketing. But just the integration of social media and search isn't enough to really improve results. You also need to have a social marketing architecture to drive the leads towards you. And that's not always as easy or as obvious as it might seem. In fact, what you're looking at now is a social marketing architecture that is basically random. It's the way most social marketing architectures looked during the first couple of years of social media, when an organization would just go in and they wouldn't have a strategy, they wouldn't have a plan or a purpose for social media, they would just start opening accounts. They really wouldn't be linked in a way that drove traffic to any one particular place. They tended to just be random acts of social marketing. But what we found after dissecting a number of really successful social marketing sites and social marketing architectures is that there is a rhyme and a reason to those successful sites. There is a hub and spoke framework in place in most of them that controls the flow of traffic and conversations from the social media sites to a point of conversion. And the way the hub and spoke framework works is that at the center, the hub sites are there for content and conversion. The spoke sites that surround these hub sites are there for building communities, for building relationships, and for engagement with those communities. And the purpose of this is that by having the hub and spoke framework is that this enables you to direct the flow of traffic in and out of those hubs, in and out of those conversion points to be able to capture leads and eventually convert them. And when you're looking at an architecture like this, the first impression usually is, well, that's a lot of sites to manage, but the number of sites that you have in your architecture is really not important. What is extremely important is that for every site you have, there is a plan and a purpose behind it. And the plan and the purpose for the hub sites, as an example, if you think about websites today, websites have really become the hub of an organization's overall marketing strategy, and it's also a primary conversion point. Whether your conversion happens to be an e-commerce transaction where someone can come in and you can convert them from a visitor into a financial sale right at that point, or if your definition of a conversion is getting someone to fill out a registration form to download a white paper, it's still websites are still used as the primary point of conversion. And if the websites have become the hub of the overall marketing strategy, blogs have become the hub of social marketing strategies, primarily because blogs tend to have dynamic, timely, keyword-rich content, including multimedia content that's very search-friendly and can lift rankings and traffic to it, much more so than websites have today. Websites tend to have content that is around for a while, a product information that doesn't change except possibly annually, other information about the company or services that are kind of fixed in there. Whereas blogs, that content is intended to be current, it's tended to have commentary with it, it's tended to be designed to be friendly with the search engines and very attractive for rankings. So around those hub sites, we need a plan and a purpose for the spoke sites. And it doesn't matter what the type of spoke site is, whether it's a social network or a microblog or technical forums or content sharing or other social sites, They each need to have a specific target audience and an objective in order to make them work well. And just as an example, if you have a Facebook page, and you're using that page to drive conversations between customers and prospects about your solutions, and your target audience for that are your end users. It may not be systems integrators or some other technical community that you target, but in this case, your Facebook page is just for end users to deal with the issues that they want to address, to give them information that they want to have. All of the posts that you put on that should be linked back to the hub, whether it's to more details on a blog post or to a conversion point, a registration form or a landing page on your website. So the purpose for the spoke sites is to drive traffic from the spoke site to the hub sites for either more content or to convert them into whether it is just a lead capture or a cash sale. So to give you an example of how this can work for an organization, I've got a case study that I'd like to talk about here for a couple of minutes. It's about an organization called Delivra, which is an email service provider, and they put together an inbound strategy that involved search and social that pulled in more than 70% increase in leads, and it doubled their annual revenue per account over the first year. So it has an incredible result to it. Their challenge as an email service provider was that their primary marketing strategy was outbound oriented, it was email oriented. And after a while, your list can only grow so fast. So you're repeatedly reaching out to your email list to the same people over and over again, and that can cause list fatigue. So you're not getting as good result. They also had a limited budget, so they couldn't just throw more money at this to go into a lot of other channels with outbound marketing. So the result of that, the result of the list fatigue and the limited budget, was a decline, a rapid decline in the quality and quantity of leads that they were generating. So the objective of their inbound strategy was to improve the quality and quantity of leads with an inbound strategy that used existing resources, both financial resources and human resources that were already available to them. The gap that they had, or one of the shortcomings they had, was they had a lack of content. They really didn't have the content that is needed to make an inbound marketing strategy effective. And they also didn't have a social marketing architecture to accomplish the objective. They were doing random acts of social marketing, as I showed you in one of the previous slides. So just a quick overview of what their strategy was. They built a 5-step inbound marketing strategy that the first step was to create guidelines to align their brand messaging across all channels, whether it was an offline channel like customer service or an online channel like their website. They designed a social marketing architecture that had a plan and a purpose for every site. They produced high-value, search engine-friendly content for lead conversion, and they leveraged automated marketing for rapid response. They also analyzed and optimized the results of their program to be able to measure ROI and prove the value of their programs. I'm going to go into just a little description about each one of those steps in the strategy to give you a little deeper look. On guidelines to align brand messaging across channels from conversation to conversion, what they had to do to start with was put on a push internally to create content for attracting leads that were interested in information about email marketing. And then they had to develop a content guideline that described their services, their competitive differentiation, and other information that people who are going to be involved in content development would need to have a consistent message. This was very important because, especially with social media, you tend to have a lot of people involved across the organization in social media. For example, if you're in marketing and you need someone with a technical point of view to moderate your technical forum, you might go to an engineer in the technology department to see if they would be interested in monitoring or writing a white paper about a technical solution. So you end up with a lot of people in a lot of different parts of the company feeding information into your social media and search programs, and you've got to have some way of regulating, getting them to understand what they should be talking about and regulate what they're talking about. So because of this guideline, they really had a rapid pace of adoption. To quote them, it was shocking how fast they were able to get get everyone on the same track to developing content in the same way. The second thing that they had to do was design a social marketing architecture with a plan and a purpose. They needed hub sites, as we said before, for content and conversion, and they used a blog and a website. They also needed spoke sites for building the communities, building relationships, enabling engagement, and they used, in their case, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and a local social network that was applicable to them. The spoke sites directed traffic flow into the hub sites to be captured and converted. And so they did this stereotypical hub and spoke framework, which worked very well for them. They just followed rules of a plan and a purpose for every site. The next thing they needed to do was to add content to search engine optimization and conversion. Remember, inbound marketing isn't just about social media. It's not just about search engine rankings. It's about integrating both. So they needed two types of content, and they went out and they produced first open access content. They wrote keyword-rich blog posts and other how-to articles, lift search rankings, and established them as subject matter experts that was to cost anything, that was not going to require any logins. It was just to get them out there in the search rankings and position them with their expertise. But more importantly, they also had to develop some premium content that would reside behind registration forms. So people had to be captured. They had to give up something of value to them, which is their email address, their name, their title, their company name, and whatever other information was required. That meant that to get them to give up something of value, they had to produce content that was really highly relevant in exchange for the value that they were going to give up. So they did white papers, they did articles, they did other things that could be put somewhere and were worth exchanging content information for. The next step was they integrated those data forms with their CRM system so that these leads that would come in rapidly would get into their existing qualification process and be qualified to the point of that they were sales ready and ready to be handed off to the sales organization. Next step was leveraging auto-response marketing. And since they are an email service provider, they already know the value of auto-response marketing. In fact, for their outbound programs, they had a 5-part series of trickle nurturing campaigns so that when they get in a lead from their outbound marketing programs, over the course of time, they would receive 5 different messages bringing them along the lead nurturing process. The trouble is, or not the trouble, but the ideal part of it is that the leads that were coming in from their inbound marketing program needed to be nurtured in a different way. They were already engaged by the company. They were already interacting with the company. They were already on the social media sites making comments and reading the information there. So it wasn't as if this was just someone that responded to an ad and had their first contact with the company. These were people who already started having a relationship, and we just identified them from an anonymous social visitor to a converted lead. And so they didn't need the 5-part series that they used for outbound marketing. They just used a single follow-up email that is shown in the right part of this screen that went out as part of the auto-response information, gave them more information if they wanted it, and just thanked them for their request. And what they found was that the leads would convert very quickly from this process, much more quickly than if they tried to apply the same auto-response strategy, that 5-part series that they use for their outbound leads. The final step was to analyze and optimize. And as an organization, Marketing Sherpa is part of the McLabs group, And the culture at the Multnick Labs Group is one of analyze and optimize, measure, test, and optimize what you're doing. And it's a culture that needs to be adopted by a lot of companies. And they did it. They did a great job of analyzing their inbound key performance indicators, things that were really relevant to inbound marketing. Not you can get into the point where you're just measuring everything and nothing matters anymore because no one is looking at it. But they focused on the things that mattered to them at the time, of things like number of leads captured, ratio of leads to sales, average value of sales, and most important for them was average return on investment. And as we're going to talk about, proving the financial return to your inbound marketing or your social marketing programs is extremely important today, because you've got to win over skeptics who don't believe in these methods but who control the budgets in order to advance your programs. So the results they got, these are pretty remarkable results when you look at them. Their quarterly revenue increase was 25 to 40%. That's an incredible jump in revenue from their inbound marketing program. They also increased their annual revenue per account by doubling it. So if an organization was spending $1,000 a year in their account, they were now spending $2,000. Again, because of that relationship that builds trust in the organization. Inbound leads increased by 70%, and more interestingly, website traffic increased 20%, but the blog now generates 3 to 4 times the traffic of a website. So their blog was just starting from scratch, and it exceeded their primary traffic point, which was their website, by 3 to 4 times, which is a fairly remarkable accomplishment for this organization. So I mentioned that it's really important to focus on ROI with especially new strategies like this, because you really have to prove that it works before you can get the money to fund future efforts. And what's driving these investments are the priorities and the perceptions that CMOs have. So we had a number of 760 CMOs in our study that responded specifically to these things. In this case, what you're looking at with this chart are the priorities that CMOs have for social marketing. And the one that is highlighted on this chart, achieving or increasing measurable ROI from social marketing programs, is not just important. It's not just one of the highest priorities for CMOs today, but it is also dependent on where your organization is in the social marketing maturity phase that Justin explained earlier. So what each data set in this chart shows is, if you look at the lighter bar, the pink bar, those are organizations in the strategic phase of social marketing maturity. If you go down to the bottom of each set, the red bar, the darker red bar, are those in the trial phase of social marketing maturity. And so what this basically shows is that organizations in the strategic phase of social marketing maturity are 80% more likely than those in the trial phase to set ROI as a priority for their social marketing programs. And the reason for this is because if you're in the trial phase, you don't have a process for social marketing. You don't have a guidelines for doing it, for performing it. So basically, you're not sure what you're trying to measure if you don't know if you don't have a process in place for determining things like that. So you're not really able to measure ROI. So for those in the trial phase, it's not very important. It's 80% more likely that it's important to you if you're in the strategic phase of social media marketing. So the other thing that's driving social marketing investment are perceptions, simply what organizations believe is the value to their social marketing programs. And what this chart is showing us is it's again broken down by the phases of social marketing maturity. And what the first item, social marketing is producing a measurable ROI, let's continue to invest in this. Well, that's the opinion of 47% of those in the strategic phase of social marketing. They know social marketing is producing an ROI, and they're continuing to increase their investments in it, as opposed to about a quarter of that in the trial phase who know that that social marketing is producing an investment for them. Again, the reason for that difference is because without a process, you can't prove the value of social marketing, and then there's no investment to follow it up. The bottom data set on that, social marketing is basically free, let's keep it that way. We ask a question like that in about a lot of our different tactics, and there are always going to be that percentage of marketers who believe things like email or social media are free, but those folks that think it's free and aren't spending any money on it are sure to be destined to get what they pay for. So the promise of social marketing ROI is now a reality. We showed you that the perception was there. Now we wanted to measure how much ROI organizations are getting. And what we found was the average social marketing ROI was 95%. 1 in 4 CMOs are doubling their social investment. That means they're getting 100% ROI, which is indicated by the dotted line on the chart. And together, these things, by identifying exactly what people are earning, it's overcoming the myth that social marketing ROI isn't measurable. So what we want to do now, in my final section here, is not just tell you it's producing ROI, but showing you how to calculate the ROI of social marketing in a meaningful way. And by meaningful, I mean ROI is a measure of financial value returned on every dollar invested. And there's a formula for this that those in the C-suite, those that control the budgets, those that decide whether or not your programs are effective, there's a formula that they understand for ROI. It's simple. Return on investment equals value gained from your investment minus the cost of the investment divided by the cost of the investment. The difficulty here, the challenge, is tracking the right metrics for determining the values and costs of social media marketing. This quote is from one of the CMOs that responded to our study. Around 10% of our social media activity directly translates to bottom line results, making ROI easy to determine for that portion. However, 90% of the work has to do with people building reputation online and helping others, so they can't effectively promote that brand, promote the brand online. That chunk of work is impossible to measure in terms of ROI. So what you have to know is when it comes to calculating social media ROI, some metrics matter more than others. There are plenty of metrics that can be measured and plenty that should be measured, but it's the ones in the middle, the ones that both can and should be measured, that are the metrics that matter most. And these metrics should be financial values, the ones that matter most. Not the kind of metrics that people were coming up with in the early part of social media when people were saying you can't really measure it in terms of ROI. So marketers came up with terms like return on engagement or return on innovation. These things mean nothing to those in the C-suite. So what are some of the values that CMOs can use to calculate the return? There are many values that can be calculated. Things like likes and fans on Facebook or followers on Twitter, social sentiment and awareness. Those are things that are valuable for monitoring your audience and their sentiment. And Melinda is going to go into that in a lot more depth when I'm finished with my portion. And but for calculating the return on investment, these are some of the metrics or the values that CMOs should use for calculating the return. Things like the actual sales generated by social marketing programs, the estimated value of new leads generated by social marketing programs. And one thing that's usually left out of the equation is the reduced cost of customer support and customer acquisition due to social marketing programs. You don't have to just increase your income to add value. You can reduce your costs. So while values, that return side of the equation, is a little more difficult to judge, the cost side is very easy. We all have budgets that we have to deal with. And in terms of the cost, this chart shows some of the costs that are associated on the investment side of social marketing ROI. And they fall into two main categories. There's earned and paid media. Earned media is what we do when we're driving to build communities and engagement on our social sites. Paid is what we do when we're placing ads on Facebook or some other paid form of social marketing. Oh, we're slowing down again on the transition. Okay, so finally, I'm going to just explain a quick case of how to formulate your social marketing ROI. We can go back to that slide. There we go. So in this case, the campaign is to drive leads through social marketing. And this organization knows that the average value of a qualified lead for them is $150. In the campaign, they got 500 qualified leads that they were able to track back to social media engagement at a value of $150 per lead. That's $75,000 in value generated by the program. On the cost side, they had the cost of staff plus a few other expenses that equaled $15,000. So the calculation of their ROI was $75,000 in value minus $15,000 in costs divided by that $15,000 in costs, which equals a 400% ROI, which by any standards is significant. So just a quick recap of my session. Leveraging the synergy between social and SEO to drive more inbound leads is critically important today. Using a social marketing architecture to control the flow of traffic to conversion is the smart way to go. Remember what's driving the investment in social marketing programs, and those are the priorities and perceptions that CMOs have about social marketing value. And you've got to calculate ROI, but not just calculate it in your own terms like return on engagement. Calculate it in a language the C-suite understands. Return on investment using a standard formula. So thank you very much, and now I'd like to hand it over to Melinda to take over with her measurement and tracking program.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for joining us today. I think a lot of what I'm going to go over today is just going to reiterate Sergio has been telling us. Basically, it's really important that we set up measurement ahead of time. Why are we going to measure? You have to have a set of measurable goals in place. You have to think in terms of what fits in with your organization, and you have to be able to prove it at the end. So you need to think, well, is it a conversion rate that we're looking at? Are we sending people to a specific landing page? Are we increasing web traffic? Is there a specific action that we want people to take? Do we want to lower customer service calls? Do we want to increase membership? And getting started is really not that difficult. I mean, you really have to sort of benchmark where you are now, determine what it is you want to achieve, how does it fit in with the entire organization, you know, plan your strategy, and determine what you really are going to measure. And it's important to start now. You know, if you're deaf to the conversation that's happening out there, really only your competitors will hear it. This is an interesting set of stats. The importance of measurement and the ROI for that social media marketing. I mean, look at some of these things. The U.S. Department of Defense considers Twitter critical to national security. Of course, Dell, we all know Dell, it measures ROI by the ratio of negative to positive comments online. It's a fairly simple ratio. And they believe that their Twitter feed alone has led to over $3 million in revenue. Of course, the Obama versus McCain, I mean, Obama had a bit of a, you know, a set of people that volunteered, but really 500 million blog postings from the beginning to the end of August 2008. That's an incredible amount of coverage online. So really, what should you be tracking? What sort of things that you should be looking at when you set up a keyword type tracking system or an online tracking? Of course, your company name, any brand names, product names, campaign names are an important thing to track. You have to be looking at who are the most influential bloggers in your community. Do they have enough influence that you need to reach out to them? Where are your competitors? You know, what sort of products or services or comments are being made, and even your C-suite. What's being about them? Where are they online? And remember that this is social. This is all about relationships. And with the social relationship comes engagement. you might want to set aside a sort of a metric that's based on what we call a relationship index. This is where you have a certain type of relationship with the market out there. It could be based on things like mutuality. The organization really listens to me. It could be based on trust. You know, I can rely on this company to keep their promises to me. Is there a level of satisfaction in the relationship with the company? Is there a commitment? In other words, is my relationship with this company valued? And you might say there's two types of relationships. There's an exchange type relationship, meaning I know that the company wants something from me in order to give me back the value that I perceive. And also, is it a communal type relationship? Are they really concerned about my welfare? So you have to sort of conduct where you are in your relationship in the marketplace before and then after you're engaging in social media. You can start with a customer satisfaction survey. You can look at your customer loyalty data. How long have they been with you? Do they continue to be with you? And use certain tools out there like web analytics and even where you are in terms of search. Where do you rank? And we talk a lot about the sentiment of what's being said about you out there. Is it positive, negative, or neutral? Those are certain relationship metrics that you want to set up ahead of time so that you have something to benchmark and something to measure against. This is sort of a listing of very simple things that you can set up to measure, kind of the obvious, really. But in terms of what are these types of measures, if you're going to set yourself up with a certain, you know, where do we stand in certain metrics, all of these measurement metrics fit into sort of three categories. The popularity or the reach or volume. I mean, really, the number of blog posts, the number of tweets about you, the number of fans on Facebook. Also, they could be sort of the engaging type metrics. Are they commenting on your blog? Are they commenting or posting to your Facebook page? Are they connecting with you on LinkedIn? Do they subscribe to your YouTube channel? And also, there's the conversion metric. In other words, are they really trying to purchase from you? Are they really trying to engage with you? Are they becoming brand advocates? And I wanted to sort of add on to the concept of earned and paid media or earned and paid marketing content. There's two other categories to that. There's the owned, and this is where you actually publish your own content. You publish your own white papers. You own the space online. And then there's the shared, and that's really what we're talking about when it comes to social media. It's not difficult to set up monitoring. There are a lot of tools out there. They're very easy to start up. Basically, you want to know what's being said out there, what your competitors are saying. RSS feeds are one of the best ways to do that. You can set it up for a Google alert. You can really dig down in what's being said on blogs. If you really feel that there's a lot of blog chatter about you out there, some of the best tools out there are Technorati, rather than just a Google search or Blog Pulse. There are a lot of tools out there that can be used to bring in, you know, your TweetDeck or TwazUp, and there's a lot of insights into search that you can use as well. Some great tools for running surveys online, and some great tools for pulling all that content into a single dashboard to make it easier for you to track and analyze. Some of those tools really fit into a number of different categories, and this again is how you can set up a sort of a metrics table for yourself. There's the content sources. In other words, things like Google or Technorati or the surveys. Those are things that bring in the content to you. And then you need ways to analyze that content. So there's a lot of things, HubSpot, Grader, Woopra, there's a lot of tools out there. They bring it all in, help you to analyze what is all this chatter, what is all this mentions of you online. And then you need ways to measure the actual engagement. So, you know, there's a lot of paid tools out there that help you with that. You have to sort of set up, you know, what is your relationship status, set up your relationship index, what is it you're going to measure against. You have to sort of look at the trends that are out there too. A lot of times there could be a timeline of when people are looking at products or services. I often use an example from a client of ours years ago. They had a free fall, gravity, weightless flight that you could take. It's the same sort of idea as what astronauts would use. They were based out of Los Angeles, and they were trying to open to the retail market, to individual people. So they decided to open this up. You could pay to go, experience what astronauts experience. But this was something that you were going to do on New Year's Eve. So people start looking online. They started to use things like Google Trends or Google Insights to see when are people actually searching online for what they're going to do on New Year's Eve. And it's actually in September. So they knew they had to have content online, have content on the website, have a landing page set up, and start monitoring out there by early September in order to be in the search when people are looking for what to do for New Year's Eve. So really important to sort of take a look at the timeline, the trends that are out there. You know, keep a base measure of what's being said and what's the sentiment of being said. And really important, if you're looking at your search rank, if this is one of the metrics that you need to take a look at, take screenshots as you go along of Google's page 1 results. Because once that's gone, it's gone. You want to know how you're measuring up against your competitors in search. And keep track of all these statistics as you go along. So once again, there's a lot of tools out there, and you have to sort of decide what's best for you. There's a lot of free tools out there that are easy to start up with. They're all readily available. They're easy to use. You know, your Google Alerts, your Google Analytics, things like Facebook Insights, Twitter search, even just setting up, you know, a search on Twitter to see what's being said about you out there. These are good to use, and you should be engaged on them, and don't be afraid of them if you're not already in them. The paid tools give you a little more analytics. They really take the time to pull together the data from all the various streams and all the various platforms to give you the relevant information so you can get rid of all that chatter out there that's not important to you. They can uncover what you really need without any types of restrictions, and they can be integrated into your CRM systems and your own online dashboard. There's a lot of API that you can bring in, and this is where you really want to work with your webmaster, your IT team, so that you bring in all of this analytics, set it up so that everybody on your team has access to it. And then evaluating all of this. I mean, really, what are you measuring against? Where have you benchmarked? Simple things like, is the content positive? Is it negative? Do you need to respond? Do you have angry customer base out there that you need to respond to quickly? Are there people commenting on posts and articles? Are there people linking to you? And is it important to take an action? Can you sit back and let the chatter dissipate? Or do you really need to engage? All of these things have to be part of your overall plan and have to be part of your measurable goals. You know, you have to think to yourself, did your relationships improve through your social marketing strategy? Were your messages properly communicated? Did you get the exposure that you wanted? Did sales and profits increase? Because once again, we're really talking about ROI here, which is a measurement, a financial measurement, and this is how you have to report back. Did the right people show up to the spaces that you created? And did you change audience behavior? And in what way did you change that behavior? You know, certain analytics can be set up, things like unique visitors to your website, returning visitors. Do you have content on more popular pages than your own website? Do you have links coming in from those sites? What's the bounce rate? How long are people spending on these landing pages and on your Facebook page? And take a look at the ratio of the blog comments compared to your blog posts. Are you really engaging? Certain things that you can manage for your own property, your own media online. You have to measure the increase or decrease of unique visits. You have to look at, in the past month, what sort of sessions, what percentage of all the sessions online represent perhaps more than 5 page views. That's sort of analytics that means something to you. Were the sessions longer than 5 minutes in length, or did somebody just come in, not find what they were looking for, and head out again? Really put together a plan and a strategy in place with those measurable goals before you start trying to engage. You have to think, you know, the money you put into it and the money you're getting out of it. That's how you have to report back to your C-suite. Some of the things that we sort of look at when we measure, before I finished up here today, sort of a gauge of what kind of exposure did you get, to what degree have you created the exposure and the content and created your message online. What kind of engagement did you get with that? Who's interacting and engaging with the content? Where are they engaging in it and how? Who have we influenced? Have we influenced perceptions? Have we influenced attitudes of our target? And what actions we're taking? This is important to set aside sort of a measurement model. And really, that's all I have to really say on the matter. There's a lot of tools out there. You know, MarketWire provides a measurement tool, but we really try to encourage our clients to engage online themselves, to really set yourself up with a system in place, with goals in mind, and to engage online, because that's what social media is all about. And that's it for me.
All right. Thanks, Melinda and Sergio. That was great content. I just wanted to remind everyone, we will have 10 minutes to hear about Q&A. There's a lot of questions coming in, those in just a minute, but remind all our attendees today that they can use the link below to save $100 on the 2011 Social Marketing Benchmark Report, a lot of which Sergio touched on today, and that's courtesy of MarketWire. So let's go ahead and get to our questions that we do have. As you can imagine, there's quite a few. Melinda, the first one comes from Carrie. She wants to know, how often should I monitor and measure?
All the time. And it's not as difficult as you think. You set up a certain measurement tools. You have them filter into you. We were laughing when we were you know, setting up the webinar today, should we have our tweet deck running so we could see what was being tweeted. This is the kind of thing that you sort of have to fit into your daily schedule, or you really need a dedicated person. For instance, if customer service, customer satisfaction is something that's important to you if you're in that space, then you really have to be monitoring Twitter quite frequently, and there's easy tools out there to do it. You have to sort of also decide, is it important for you to engage on that person? Do you have a sort of a crank that's complaining about you that's just going to go away? So a lot of the tools that you use will give you sort of what's their influence rank. How important are they in the greater scheme of things? You know, you can simply look at how many people follow them on Twitter, you know, how many people link to them on their blog, but you really have to have a tool that runs constantly, a web analytics tool, social media monitoring tool. You have to know that the speed of light is not fast enough when it comes to social media.
Mm-hmm. And as a follow-up to that, speaking of Twitter, we have a question that came in from PhotoBeth R that said, you know, kind of as a follow-up to what you just answered, is there a better time to promote? Is it normally at the first post, or, you know, do you usually do it, you know, deeper in the conversation? Do you have any feedback or data on that as, you know, when the best time to promote is?
I think that maybe the question is wrong. The question maybe what's the best time to engage, because promoting isn't really something you need to or want to do on social media. What you want to do is engage with valuable content and commentary and moderating conversations. If you're using social media to start a conversation that turns into a promotion, people are going to see that, and it's not often while they're there. However, if you give them valuable information and you're offering them a way to access that they have to register for, if you want to consider that promotion, that's fine. But in terms of the timing of it, everyone has to test and monitor and test some more, as Melinda said, because every organization is different. And when your target audience responds to things is going to be different based on what their needs are, what type of organization you are, what solutions you provide, and so forth.
That's a really good point. Actually, as a follow-up to that, Sergio, a question that came across as well, what's the average time, you were talking about the different phases, and I mentioned that as well, that it takes someone to move from, say, like a trial phase into proven results, and that came from Pat. Do you have any a timeline? I'm sure it varies across companies. Is there any type of data that you have as far as how long it would take someone to go from the trial phase into more of the strategic phase?
Sure. And if that's Pat on the West Coast, who happens to be an old friend of my wife, hello, Pat. Beyond that, the amount of time, we do workshops on social media marketing where we're in front of 20, 30, 40 people at a time, and we're spending a whole day talking about tactics for and best practices for social media marketing. And people often ask that question, how long should we expect it to be from the time we kind of get into it at the trial phase to getting through transition and becoming a strategic phase marketer? And when we talk to people about that time frame, when we ask them what they're doing, again, it comes down to every organization is different. A small organization will tend to be a little faster at getting it done. You don't have to go through so many layers of bureaucracy and legal departments to get something done. Larger organizations tend to take longer. We've seen people who came into our workshops as a trial phase marketer and then follow up with us a month later and say, we've already reached the strategic phase, thanks for the process, the methodology, the steps to get it done, which is outlined in the social marketing report that came out before this benchmark report that's on the screen, was the social marketing roadmap, which is a practical methodology for going through the phases of social marketing maturity, the best practices and processes and so forth.
It's just a follow-up kind of to what you were saying there, Sergio. We had a question that came across as well by G. Roger Lindquist. His question was, can a company realistically achieve a strategic level plan internally, or does it need to be outsourced in most cases that you found?
It depends on within the organization to do it. If you've got people who have been brought in because of their existing knowledge of social marketing strategy, then it can be done in-house. I think of a lot of organizations, what they do is they just simply don't have that kind of talent. So they go outside to an agency or consultancy that specializes in social marketing, particularly the strategic level of social marketing. And these organizations can help them plan out their social marketing strategy, give them guidance, and eventually teach them to fish rather than just giving them a fish.
Right. That's great. Hey, Melinda, we do have time for one more question. This came from one of our attendees. The question was, how do I decide what keywords and search terms I should use for monitoring? It says they get a lot of irrelevant results in Google search and Twitter.
Sure. I mean, it can be fairly simple for some companies. You have, your key brands. You have your product names. You even have certain categories where your products and services fit into. You have to monitor what your competitors are doing out there. You might even take a look at, if you think in terms of search, what do people actually put into a search to find content? It's not your product name or service name. It's not necessarily a technical name. It's something a little more generic. So if you always keep in mind, how you would search for things, where you live online, who influences your decision-making practices, and those are the types of things that you would put into a search. It's not just a keyword type search. It can be a search on certain platforms. Really, you have to take a look at where you live now and where you want to live. So you have to think in terms of, is there a greater topic, industry, or subject out there that you need to be monitoring, because there may be a whole new market you haven't considered before. So you have to look outside yourself for sort of those keyword strategies while monitoring what's typical. Even your CEO's name, you need to monitor what's being said about them as well.
Good points. Good points. Well, we're running out of time here, but as you can imagine, there's quite a few questions that are still coming over the hashtag and also in the box. So we'll go ahead and continue on. I just want to thank all of our speakers today. They did a wonderful job, and they had some really excellent content, really sharing their marketing insights and expertise with us. All the slides from today's presentation will be sent to everyone in a follow-up email tomorrow. Also, I'd like to encourage you to continue to send us, any additional questions you see on the screen right now. We've got some emails there that you can definitely reach by us, and also on that Twitter hashtag. We'll be happy to continue answering those. Again, at the end of this, as you close, you'll have a short survey to take. We'd appreciate your feedback and also your comments. So everyone have a great day. Thank you very much.